me again. Thanks, Jordan, for helping. That's my little boy there, so helping me. I did this by myself. It became quite difficult. My little USB controller on my iPhone was messing around, so I had to call him to help me out on this one. Right, I got a little present for you. I found this book, Q&A for the Pinbot Guide 5th edition. I bought it a while back and I actually forgot I had the book. It's actually very good. It kind of gives you an insight to the kind of questions that the PMI will set in the real exam. It eases you in, gives you a level of confidence, and basically it's good. I'll go through one or two questions in it for you to understand the type of questions that are potentially in there. So, but we'll leave that there for now. Today, I'm going to talk about going to my reading plan, which is introduction and what I call the P3 management framework, which is the portfolio, program, and project management framework. In the context of that, it just talks about the types of what the role of the portfolio is, role of the program, role of the project is, and you have the organizational strategy sitting on top of all of them, and how that kind of drives down each of these various areas. Luckily, a great deal of what I've talked about in my first 3 videos, I've already spoken about again, so I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record by now, but I just realized that there are a few little salient points that may come out in the exam that I missed out, and I just want to quickly brush them through, and so this should not take the usual 30 minutes where most of my projects do take, but I might divide it into 2 different sections and cover another area and then make up my 30 minutes, which is the target I try and achieve for each video. Like I said, today we're going to be talking about the P3 management framework, chapter 1 introduction, which just gives you an overview. Back to project management of the PMI. What we're doing is that we're actually going through a standard which has been written by the PMI, and you need to know that a standard, or what you can call a guideline, or what we can call a good practice, is what the PMI is trying to tell us to do on how to manage our projects. I noticed something in the book, the overall book, that the PMI are pretty much hands up, say disclaimer here, guys, if this doesn't work, don't come and blame us that it doesn't work, but we're just telling you that this is a good way, this is a guideline, and this is something you could use in your project. So in effect, what that means, that the PMI standards or the PMI guidelines or the good practice will not work for every single project, but what they're saying is that it's suitable for most situations. In effect, you got to tailor it to actually suit your project. Unlike what you call in some cases the methodologies of other methodologies out there, the Prince2s and the Agile and the Kanban and all that, they are quite strict, even though they also say you can tailor, but they can be quite strict in the way you do things for it to work fully. In the case of the PMI standards, they're saying no. You may get in an exam question to say that the PMI project management processes will work for all projects. No, it doesn't. It's going to work for most projects, but not all. You have to be very careful in the exam about absolute questions, things that say all or none. No, they don't really do that. They're more like saying all or any. You have to be very careful. There's pretty much a disclaimer with any absolute statements as far as the Pinbot Guide is concerned. So be very, very careful that you're better off going with most or some questions that have most or some in them. Again, for those of you who don't know, many of you are probably not going to even listen to me on this one here, but for most of you, you need to understand that a project is a temporary endeavor to provide a unique product, service, or result which could be long-lasting to the overall objectives. So the fact that it's a temporary endeavor does not mean that what you produce out of it disappears when a project is completed. It means that you've done what you need to do to actually provide a long-lasting effect on what the organization, or for whatever reasons the project was set up for. And that is one property of a project. I put a line down there to talk about operations. I might as well talk about it now. On the other hand, operations, as you might have heard, BAU, business as usual, is just the regular ongoing and keeping things moving on and keeping the business alive. You have the IT support teams, you have regular business processes, you have filing, whatever processes businesses may have that keep the business ticking and make sure there's business continuity. And those are the things that fall under operations. For example, every weekend you patch your servers, or every weekend you do a cleanup of the database to make sure that you don't have unnecessary data sitting around the whole place. Something you do quite regularly is what you fall under operations, whereas a project is something that you specifically set up to start, go through a full project life cycle, and then you complete it, you close it, and you tuck it away. But the effect of it stays very, very much longer after the project has been long closed. Moving on to that swiftly as well, and that goes on to tell us that the project's success, right, is measured by the ability to meet the time, the cost, and quality constraints of which it was originally set up. So if I tell you, I need to deliver this particular, we need to migrate ourselves from one data center to the other. That's the overall objective of the project. We want to migrate the data center. But in doing that, I need you to do it in this particular time, within this particular budget. You need to make sure that you meet certain quality criteria for me to accept that the project is closed, and all that. You get all those what you call constraints. These are the things that you work within that constraint to do that. And at the end of it, you come, as a project manager, you go to the project sponsor and say, I've met this, and that, according to the variations that happen throughout the course of the project, because sometimes you need to raise change controls, but I've met them. And those constraints, you say, yes, good, you've done a good job, thank you very much. You've done it within what we agreed, even though we might have changed some few things from when we originally started, but you've done it within that agreed time, and we're good. But if a project then goes way out of line, you budgeted 1 million and then you essentially spend 10 million, and then they close the project, you can't consider that a successful project, can you? It's really not a successful project. And you have the programs on portfolio, which are also measured by certain criteria, but I'll go back into that very, very briefly, or at some point in time during the course of this video. Now, my earlier videos I mentioned about organizational objectives and organizational strategy. When you think about organization, think about right at the top of the food chain, which is pretty much every organization is driven by competition. Every organization is driven by the desire to be successful, the desire to be able to meet up with the services that they provide to the end user, or whatever they do. They're there to do business and to make money. As a result, they do have strategy. When you think of organizational strategy, think about policies. You want to think about values. You want to think about things that make them tick. You want to think about organizational structure. You want to think about objectives. When you think anything organizational strategy, those are the things that are guiding principles that work with in the organization. And then down that line, you then have what you call portfolio management. Now, not every organization has a portfolio management office or portfolio. They don't, not everyone. Depends on the size of the organization, depends on what they care about and what they don't care about. But from the context of the PMP guide, we're talking large projects, we're talking big organizations usually, and you need to just make sure you are fully aware of this. So we have the portfolio. Under the portfolio, you could have sub-portfolios as well, which is why I just put as a little branch. So the portfolio is pretty much like the King's, which is the organizational strategy, most valued general. It's like the most valued general to say that you are the one taking care of me. I've got strategy, I've got policies, I've got this, I've got a list of things I want to do. I'm going to give to you, the portfolio manager, to make sure this happens and meets what I want. Okay? And that's how it works. So the portfolio is pretty much next in line in command to whatever organizational strategies you may have. So at the organizational level, you may have maybe the chief executive officer sitting there setting up the strategies and all that stuff. And at the portfolio level, you have a portfolio manager, but just for argument's sake, you may then have maybe the CIO, chief information officer, who manages the portfolio of various programs and perhaps various sub-programs, okay, and even projects. All of that big massive shopping bag of programs, sub-programs, projects are within the portfolio. Look at the portfolio again like a catalog. It's a catalog. It's got everything. Catalog, yeah. It's got everything. You could look at bedrooms, kitchens, toys, children. It's all, every single little thing may not necessarily be related, but it's all in there. Yeah, it's just, this is a portfolio. I manage this portfolio of products, and the products may not necessarily be related, and that's how it is. And then if you filter that down, you then have the programs, other sub-programs. Again, just as you have portfolio, sub-portfolio, you have programs, other sub-programs, which then contains projects. But when you now have the projects or the sub-projects, the projects that are inside each of when you have programs or the sub-programs, the projects that are inside each of those programs or sub-programs are related. They affect themselves in one way or the other. So as a project manager who may be working on one or two projects as part of a program, must be fully aware of what you're doing and what's happening outside there in other projects that might have been given to some of your other colleagues, project managers, because whatever you do may affect what they're doing. Your time scales may affect their project starting. So projects in programs are related, but projects or programs in portfolios may not necessarily be related. That's the difference I'm trying to make you realize. And all of these tend to be connected by what you call the project management office, but some people call it portfolio management office, which is very rare you have, or you could have the program management office, which is also very rare. And the most common acronym for the PMO is the project management office. I won't talk about that now because that in itself is another topic. We'll talk about that when we take a little bit of a break from this session and go into more detail, but just hold on to that thought for now. So let's just quickly summarize that. So you have the organization where it could be the CEO, and then you have the CIO at the portfolio level maybe. You have the program manager, right, who may be hired specifically to manage the program. Or it could just be the head of department, maybe the head of IT, for example, or the head of group finance or the head of group IT, who is managing the programs. And here you then have the specific project managers who are actually at that level. So that's how it filters down. So as it filters down, so it filters up in terms of responsibility, which is where I mentioned something about the success of a project. I would be a bit more explicit about what I mean. Well, let's go through that summary very quickly. And here's that organization drives the company's policies, processes, values, that's business values, and strategy. And portfolios are in place to align with organizational strategy. That's what I've said there. Further down, we then have the programs or the projects align with portfolio strategies, which obviously in turn cascades upwards to organizational strategy, right? And that's pretty much what it is, okay? Projects within a program are always related. Now, what then happens is prioritization occurs at all levels, but as far as the portfolio is concerned, they set the top level priority, which then goes down to the program to say, this program A or program B or program C is, these are the priorities. I want you to, to deliver them. They have an idea, and then the the program managers and the project managers know those priorities and deal with them accordingly. So what then happens there is that prioritization happens at all levels, but it filters really from the top. Normally, in most companies, what happens is towards the end of every year, you have what you call the cycle run. The top level management will sit down and think about the strategy for the next year coming and the next 2 years or 3 years or even up to 5 years, if they have the budget, and think, okay, where are we going to as an organization? Where do we want to be? What then happens from there onwards is they then send out maybe a questionnaire and find out, maybe to the heads of departments and program managers, and say, look, what have you guys got? What do you want to do to improve your businesses and improve your departments and whatever it may be. And there's this cycle run on the type of projects or the type of enhancements perhaps that they want to do to the business. So they then put together all that, put allocated cost to it, and then cascade that down to the various portfolio managers or program managers to run with, and as for the following years or the couple of years down the line. So that's pretty much how it all happens in that area. So really there isn't anything much to this apart from the fact that you just read the introduction chapters, which is chapter 1, and you see a lot more of what I've discussed already in my previous videos. And just take note that a project is a temporary endeavor. A standard is not for everything, it's for most things, it's quite good, but they're not saying that it would work for every situation. And project success is measured by what has been agreed that you want to do, and then you say, yes, you did it accordingly. Whereas the program or portfolio is actually measured by the success of achieving the organizational strategy and the investments for which the organization decided in the first place. So, we invested in buying a lot of more aeroplanes, and we're getting the value because we're now getting customers, and the planes are, flying. We've got more countries that we fly to, or we've invested in digital technology. As a result, we now have more hits on our internet, and customers are coming to us a lot more. We've basically come down a bit on our high street shops and put a lot more online. As a result of that investment, we're now being able to record a substantial amount of profit at the end of year accounts. So basically, portfolios programs report upwards and say, yes, that investment was worth it, whereas projects reports to the portfolio level to say that what we agreed, I've delivered for you, and it just basically cascades. I'm going to take a short break. Probably this may be the end of the video. I haven't decided what I'm going to do when I go on to edit it, but if I don't, then what's going to happen is when I come back, I'm going to talk about the types of organizational structure and how they influence the authority of the project manager. What I mean by that is I'm talking about matrix organizations. I'm sure you've heard about it. Matrix organizations, weak matrix, strong matrix, functional matrix, composite organization, and all that. And I would basically elaborate on that so you fully understand how that affects the authority of the project manager and potentially affects, could affect the success of the project as well. And then I would elaborate a bit more on the project management office and the types of project management office you have. You've got the supportive, you've got the controlling, you've got the I can't remember the rest, to be honest, right now, but yes, I will touch a bit more about that in my next video. And yes, that's it. And hopefully see you in a short while, or see you in my next video. So let's go through some questions in this book, so you see and get an idea of how the questions could be framed and how equal they may be. Right, the question I have here is, the PMP guide is a standard for A, managing all projects of all of the time across industries. Managing all projects all of the time across all industries. B, managing all projects all of the time across some type of industries. C, managing most projects most of the time across many types of industries. D, managing some projects some of the time across some types of industries. I'm sure you can now see how subtle those sentences are and how very, very closely related the answers are. And this is what especially makes the exam extremely difficult, because you tend to have more than one answer and you just got to choose the next best. The first option tells you, it says all, absolutes, be careful. The next one talks about all and some, an absolute and a non-absolute, managing all projects all of the time across some type of industries. And then you have managing all projects all of the time across all industries. Then C, it says managing most projects most of the time across many types of industries. And then finally you have managing some projects some of the time across some types of industries. So you then now tend to see that C and D are pretty much like two non-absolutes, but the question is between some and most. Now, for my previous session that we had, we said project success is measured, take that away, is suitable for most but not all situations. So the answer here is choosing the word most, not some. Most, because a guideline, a standard, a best practice would work in most situations, not just some, in most situations. Let me see if I can find another very this is a good one. Project success is measured by what? Product, project quality, timeliness, budget, compliance, and degree of customer satisfaction. B, degree to which the project satisfies its time and budget objectives. C, the triple constraints of schedule, cost, and technical performance. And D, listen to this, degree to which the project satisfies the needs for which it was undertaken and its long-term contribution to aggregate performance of the organization's portfolio. What do you think is the answer? The first thing you're going to think of is that A, actually they all seem to be correct. Project, the product, the project quality, timeliness, budget, compliance, and degree of customer satisfaction is correct. sounds correct, let's say. D, to degree of which the project satisfies the needs for which is undertaken and is long-term contribution to aggregate performance of organizational portfolio. C, the triple constraints of schedule, cost, and technical performance. Then degree to which the project satisfies this. All of these are like, wow, under pressure, it's easy for you to go for the quick one. So let's talk through each one specifically and see where we can come up with an answer. It says product, the project quality, the timeliness, the budget compliance, and degree of customer. I'm going to put that straight away as yes, but I'm going to park it for now until I talk about the rest. Yeah, talk about the product because the project is the delivery of a product, service, or result. The quality criteria, which if you make that right, how quickly you do it, on time in terms of the budget, and obviously the degree in which the project sponsor, all your stakeholders, in this case your customers, are happy. So I'll probably take that straight away, but let's go to the next one. This is a very funny answer. It says, to the degree to which the project satisfies its time and budget objectives. Now they put the word degree. Degree means, are you telling me that you may not satisfy everything completely, but if you do a little bit of it, then it's okay? No, that's incorrect. It's not degree. I mean, well, you may argue that what if it is 100%? No, but degree here is the context of which degree is used is that means it's not complete. It's actually partly done, to meet what has been agreed. And then that also goes down to C, to say to degree to which the project satisfied the needs for which it was undertaken. Now, if you jump over, the way the brain works is to forget the degree and focus on the project satisfies the needs of which it was undertaken, because we talk about projects and objectives and things like that. It's easy to jump into that and basically miss the boss. In this case, again, degree is telling you only to, well, we agreed that you give me 100% quality, but I've been able to give you 99.9%, so that's good enough. No, unfortunately not. So degree, the in B and D doesn't work, so that's out of the window. That leads us to the most common that, career project managers like myself will jump to quickly as the triple constraints of schedule, cost, technical performance. Now they killed it with technical performance, because technical performance, you may be thinking, well, that's quality criteria as well, and how well it is not the answer. The answer is A, the product, the quality of the project and how you run the project, the timeliness of how quickly you did the stuff, how much of the budget you stayed within, and stay within the budget, and the degree of customer satisfaction. So this book just gives you a flavor of the kind of questions that could come out and how you have to carefully go through the questions, analyzing practically every single word in there and trying to figure out the implication of that word to the overall sentence. Please get this book. It's very, very good for you to use, and you will hopefully not regret it. Take care.